Hello,
Oh,
fellow
there you
comic
go.
bookworms. This is Naman. Welcome to my channel. Otaku is gonna introduce our guest of the day. Guest of the day. So Otaku, take along here. I'll see if I could pay attention to chat.
Yeah, as part of our ongoing series to observe Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, we have a very special guest, really such a talented artist, and we're just so pleased to have him join Philip Tan. And I'm just going to have him kind of introduce himself, speak to his Asian heritage, and then we'll get started from there. So, Philip, go ahead.
Um, Hi, I'm Philip Tan, and comic book artist. I've been working professionally since 2001. Um, and that's it. I'm just joking. But yeah, I'm a Filipino Chinese. I grew up in the Philippines, and comic book and manga is my passion, and this is what I do. I can't imagine myself doing anything else. I mean, I actually finished architecture, and I just can't see myself drawing, bathrooms and windows for the rest of my life. That's just not what I want for the future. So
Yeah. So
Cool.
now you and I connected at Emerald City Comic Con,
yeah.
and I have actually this awesome,
Oh, thank you.
remark that you did here,
Thanks, man.
Oh, cool.
and yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces in the collection. I do want to focus though on your background. Like what got you into comic book art? Did you read comic books growing up in the Philippines? And I'm curious, can you speak? You can obviously speak Tagalog, right?
Yeah, I can
And do you
speak
speak
Tagalog.
Chinese?
I speak Mandarin. I speak
Wow,
Taiwanese. Uh,
wow,
and English.
Oh
that
yeah.
is incredible.
No, well,
Oh, that's what
I
you were
think
speaking.
was that?
That's what you were speaking. I didn't.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I'm trying
what
to
what
mislead
what
people.
were
No, just
you
joking.
what were you into growing up as a kid? Did you read comics? Did you read manga? What got you into it?
I did. I still do. Manga and comics. I mean, especially manga is such a big part of my career and still influences me. Up till now. I think a lot of what I do are very much affected and are inspired by what I read as a kid. And the first manga I read was Astro Boy, and
Oh,
and
that's your voice.
back then in the Philippines, American comic books were very expensive, so there weren't really an easy way to access it for us. So I had much more manga. There are a lot of cheaper, unfortunately pirated, reprints, in those times over there, and there's a lot of Hong Kong comic books. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys heard of Master Q. It's a comedy book, and that was what my dad would bring home. A lot of like martial arts comics and Master Q.
Oh, cool.
um, and then eventually I started to discover the Astro Boys. There's a lot of like Romance of the Three Kingdoms manga in the school library. Well, our school actually had a pretty good collection of manga back then, um, in our library. And it wasn't until like you know almost high school where I discovered the American comic books, and 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 I mean, I'm like, by no means we were not like starving or anything. We're okay, and we can provide for food, shelter and all that. But we didn't really have luxury to spend on toys or other stuff. We don't have extra funds for those. So in the beginning, I have to like really kind of like save up for one comic book every month. And I think that was Jim Valentino's Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, it was 1991, 1992, and that's how it all started.
Wow.
Just
Yeah.
curious, Philip. Is it Philip?
Yeah.
Philip, your given name, or did you choose yourself?
Yeah. No. Well, in the Philippines, all Chinese or everyone, you know, not just Chinese, everyone who were born there or you know who grew up there, everyone had got like either if you're Chinese, you got a Chinese name. If you're Japanese, you have a Japanese name. If you're Korean, you have a Korean name. But everyone still have like a name that's composed of Roman letters. You know, like you have an English name. Everyone's got an English name.
Imagine in Filipino, Philip is a very popular name in English.
No.
So it's not-
I don't think so. I think like you there's a lot more Michaels and other stuff. You know,
okay.
like the Philippines is a Catholic country,
Okay.
so a lot of the guys' name are based on like the saints and stuff like that.
I see.
Yeah.
Like Daniel and
You
Peter.
know, like you have your Thomas and your Matthews, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah,
the
right,
Michaels,
right.
you know, stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
Philip, I think
All right.
Philip is also.
No, that I don't know. Maybe it is. I apologize.
So we're now going to talk about how you broke into comics. Can you talk about that moment or that connection?
Well, I think around 1999 or was it 98? Wills Portacio and Brian Heberlin were launching their book Stone, and Wills would take trips back, and Wills is Filipino, so he takes trip back to the Philippines, and he's got an event, and he's actually had a comic book school set up over there. And you know, in the event they had a contest, you know, a drawing contest and stuff like that. And you know, I went and joined. I didn't win, but you know, I got to know a lot of the people over there, a lot of the other artists, and they were nice enough to let me hang out and kind of like, you know, see them more often afterwards to you know, to kind of like grow, I guess, you know, for lack of a better word, I mean, to kind of train. And I think around 2000, I just figured, you know, I mean, it's all cool and we're training and we're kind of like learning to get better doing comic books. So there's really not like a big chance for us to do anything. So I figured I got a group of people in the same group to just go ahead and do a story. And you know, Brian Heberlin, you know, and Wills liked it enough. They showed it to Wildstorm, and Wildstorm picked it up.
Awesome.
And that's kind of how I broke in.
Yeah. No, you know, we featured several Wildstorm artists throughout this series.
Yeah, cool.
And it's given the start to so many Asian American artists, and that's great to hear. You know, you got your first work through Wildstorm.
Well, I think you know, them being based in Southern California probably factored into it. You know, there's a lot of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders around the area.
Yeah. Is it California where you're at now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I'm still. I'm not in San Diego, but I'm pretty close. Like, you know, I'm an hour away.
Mm-hmm. And so, did you get a chance to work with, or just like, I guess, meet Jim Lee and some of the other people?
I was living in the Philippines back then, and so now, you know, I got to meet them when I visited for the conventions. But you know, I like after 2 years, I wasn't working for Wildstorm anymore. And I was lucky enough to be doing books for Marvel, and that's when I decided that I needed to move here.
Not even a conference call like this. You didn't get to see him.
I don't think back then.
Yeah, back then it was.
I don't think there were any. there
Yeah,
were
we
any
had a lot of more.
features to be able for people to do this.
Yeah.
Right. It's mostly email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess the best thing would be phone call. And that would be that long distance call. That would be it.
this
Awesome.
this this reminds me. Do you have like a online website where you have online
Oh,
store?
I don't. I have social media like most artists and people, and pretty much it's mostly Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and if it's not philiptanart, you can probably just type in
Mhm.
philiptan, and
Mhm.
you know I
Yeah,
know it's a very common name, but
yeah. And normally when I do, I invite guests over. I normally give something away at their shop, but because this person won last time, I'll get that book out to you. Don't worry.
yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately I don't have like a proper website and stuff like that.
No
that's
online
fine.
shop. No.
That's fine. So, yeah, let's talk about that transition to Marvel. What was the book? What was the
Well, yeah,
project?
it was just I was very lucky, and Brian Heberlin at that point was my agent. He was a very good friend, and he's still a very good friend. He guides me a lot. He's one of my mentors in the industry. I mean, up till now, and at that time, um, Marvel suddenly needs an artist for Uncanny X-Men. So it was just like the stars aligned, and I just got dropped into that spot.
Wow, that's a huge book. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, in hindsight, there is something I wish I could have done better. I was young, and I just promised everything that I asked of me, um, and if I can go back, I would not agree to do like 2 books a month, pencil and ink, because I am not that fast. And then obviously I get behind and got delays, and it's my fault, and you can't blame anyone for it. It takes
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah, those deadlines are very
Yeah.
hard to meet. I remember, that was sort of the big issue at Wildstorm when they were starting out, like for all the artists there.
Yep.
What was it like to have like Will Sportatio as your mentor? I mean, what's he like? What's his
Well,
approach?
Will's is. Oh, actually, I live pretty close to Will's. He's 5 minutes away, right
Wow.
now. And and funny thing is, back then, I didn't know that Will's is so easy to chat and talk to. And you always have that barrier that you actually imagined up, because they're your heroes. And so I was always worried about bugging him, or reaching out or asking him anything. But I remember every Thursday I would take, in the Philippines we have the jeepneys as our public transport. We don't really have like a good railway system or anything like that. I think they do now, but it's been a while. I haven't been back. um and I would take like 2 hours of the public transport with no AC, in
Oh
in in
yeah.
like
Oh,
in like
Chuck.
like a 40-degree humidity and 40-degree Celsius, and a high humidity country.
Oh,
And
no.
then I would take to do that every Thursday, um to go see Wills. And then he would be very nice, and one of his guys, Gilbert Monsanto, and they would always be super cool about kind of like going through my stuff. So yeah, so I think I have much more. There's much more cool stuff to that I can say about Wills now, because now that I've discovered that, oh, he's a super cool guy. He likes talking about comics and stuff like that. And then back then I just didn't know.
Hmm. Awesome. Now you've been working on a lot of different books. Is there a particular, I guess, character or project that you've worked on that you feel like really proud of and are
Um, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
your.
I mean, most of the time, an artist would always feel like they can go back and do better, right? I mean, hopefully, you always think that you've improved and got better with your craft. Um, So you always want to go back and say, okay, I was happy with this, but I wish I can go back and make this better. Most of the projects I've done, that's what I feel. But like the more recent one though, I'm really really proud of I did the Last Shadowhawk one shot for Jim Valentino, and it's really the first time where Jim allowed me to kind of like write and co-write it with him. So I'm very proud of it. Um, and what I'm doing with Daniel Enriquez right now for Frank Miller, it's I think it's one of our best works. It's
Yeah.
probably my best work at this point to ever got published.
Yeah. Can you talk about that, or is it still like?
Oh no, I mean it's the first two issues are out. I'm actually finishing up issue. Well, I just passed halfway on issue 5, and it's a 6-issue book. So it's 40 pages every issue. Hopefully issue 6 will be out. Once we get it done, within the year. Hopefully, sometime, sometime in the summer, we'll get it all done, and people can check out this continuation of Frank's acclaimed Ronin book.
Now we're gonna show some artwork from your social media, and we'll give you an opportunity to kind of
thank you.
Talk about some of the works, and again, lean more into like who inspired you. Let's start there. Let's go with your inspirations. Are there any specific artists, or I know you mentioned Wills as a mentor. Was he big in inspiring and influencing?
A lot of them are. A lot of them are. And you can't. I mean, if you grew up in the 90s and you become an artist, you can't not mention that all the Image founders in some way or form, from Todd to Eric to Rob to everyone, they just influence you, whether consciously or subconsciously, you kind of steal something from their art and put it into your work. And that's what I think happened to my artwork. But for the longest time, I shared earlier, I love manga. I still read it up till now. I everything from Takehiko Inoue to your Shiros to Samura, Nihei. They're all my inspirations. I think as an artist, you try to steal a little bit of what you think makes you fall in love with their art, and try to do the same thing on yours.
Yeah, well, I love this art. I should have realized how small this print is because.
Well, I mean, there's the pen.
Yeah, because the pen right there. But I didn't realize that until you show us that print. Can you show us your physical prints?
Yeah, I mean, they're just slightly bigger than my face, my head. They're the size of a comic book. When you have a comic book and there's like a paper backing board behind it in the plastic.
Yeah,
this is exactly the board that I drew these images on. Yeah. So what I did with this was I'm trying to plug and promote my book with Frank. So every day after I draw my pages, I would do one of these. Try to get one done in 30 minutes. And be able to
being slow, but that's not that's
well, I mean, the thing is, you don't have a story. You're not trying to consciously think about where the characters are, what are the backgrounds, what's going to happen to this. I mean, a big part of what delays me drawing a comic book is to think about how that story, or the images that you draw on from page to page, how it's gonna bring the story and ideas across better, instead of it being just a pinup. I mean, there's so many great illustrators in the industry, but I think not, a lot of them are illustrators. They're not comic book artists. They don't tell stories.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I was, in my conversation before you joined, this was backstage. I was telling Naman Hyung about like how your art is really that medium, the comic book medium. It's really, I think,
Yeah, thank
complements
you.
that medium so well. Um, Talking about this project here, Frank Miller is such a legend. I mean, have been kind of blessed to work with these
Very
legends
blessed.
and
Very
have
much
them
so.
kind
Yeah.
of guide your work. Can you talk about sort of the collaboration you did on this project with him?
I would say that you know uh, the collaboration is actually mostly me trying to learn and steal from his wisdom. He was very generous. He's super generous right now, sharing everything he knows, um, and crafting this. Ronin, the story is a very very personal project for him. So you know the process that we do on this book is one where he actually goes in and does all the layout and plans the script in his head and puts notes down, where I think I take more of a back seat on this and just try to absorb how he craft his story, with the visuals in mind. um I think that's what Frank is doing right now, is really sharing his wisdom, is trying to 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 give it to the next generation, or whatever generation it is right now out here, um that is willing to learn.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And what, so in those conversations, what did you want to kind of bring that was your own to the character or to the story?
I would say I see it in a very different way. I think I try not to affect his intents as much as I can, because, like I said, this is a very, personal project for him, and there are things that he wanted to bring across, to tell, that I know I should probably not touch. There are parts of the visuals where I'm completely just doing it, from my own designs and whatnot. But these are things that are not as, they're not going to affect the main stories as much, you
Mm-hmm.
know and a lot of the time I think you're going to look at the whole project where, Frank is focusing on certain things, and the other parts, there is just this unspoken understanding that I'm supposed to go in and pick those up, and and hopefully create something that complements what he's already have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. And let's, Kyung, can you go back to one of the prints of the Ronin?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, one of the that I guess that works. Um, can you just talk to your process in creating
Well,
this?
this is something where I cannot do this by myself. This, what you're seeing right now, is the final art for Ronin, and it's something where Daniel Henriquez and I, work very closely, back and forth, you know, where you can't really say that I'm the penciler or he's the inker, because I would go over and put screen tone notes, and he would even go up and change some of my line work. So this is, I would like to always describe that it's your 1 + 1 is equal to 5, where if you it's not adding two artists and getting a sum. What we're trying to do is multiplying our talents, where we're compounding,
Mhm.
if for lack of better way to describe that, that's what I
Mhm.
think, is
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Is Enrique kind of your go-to in terms of inking your work?
No, yeah. I mean, Daniel Henriquez is, he's a brother to me right now. At this point, just how much we talk and collaborate, and we love the same things. We have projects that we plan that's outside of Frank's book. But that's in the future. That's not any time for now. Right now, the both of us are focusing on making Ronin as good as we can.
Mhm. We have a question here in the chat. What's the best advice either Miller and or Frank or Will Spertasio has given you?
The funny thing is, a lot of people think that if you go and try to learn and study from like, say, a very successful artist, a very talented creator, that you would get all these
I'm just
advices,
rubbing on them.
and they don't. The thing is, you have to just absorb everything that they, it's not like a proper, it's not like a formal school scenario where you go in and there's a teacher and they teach you stuff. No, it's not. You're either working with them, or you're there to observe and absorb how they create.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something you can quantify in words.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I would imagine all the layouts that Frank, that would just be amazing to see how he, how like he approaches it, and then see him verbalize that to you. I'm sure that's a huge
Well,
lesson
he
right there.
I think his social media account might have posted a few of those maybe a
Wow.
year ago.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to find it, but I think you can probably find them.
What was what was it again? Frank Miller with collaborating
I
with
I
you?
don't I don't know for sure, like
Mhm.
the exact the exact IG, or I obviously, his name has to be in there, but I don't think it was just that. There's got to be, because that's also a very common name, so there's got to be
Yeah.
more in the handle.
We have a lot of artists, community artists in the chat right now
Oh,
who
very
who
cool.
are who
Thank
are
you.
doing work similar. And what would you be your advice to these artists who are just kind of like looking to get an opportunity, or just you know doing it for
I mean,
enjoyment?
I hear what you're saying, and I can't like I can't pretend that I'm like Frank, or Wills, or even Todd. But what I do know, is when I didn't, like, when I was at the point where I don't know, you, you know before I got into before I broke in, I was in that spot where I felt like, okay, I'm getting better with this craft. I'm learning a lot, but there's not really, like, okay, there's an exam, and if you pass, you get a job. It doesn't work like that. There's no, like, it's not like a sports where you get popular people, companies to draft you, or stuff like that. There's uh, being artist is completely different. And I still think there are a lot of easier and better ways to make money than being an artist. And so you have to really love it to kind of stay in this field. And
You gotta
what
love
I
it.
really think worked for me is just going out and putting a book together, because there's no better way to prove to people that you can get the job done, uh, you know outside of getting the job done.
Yeah.
So yeah, people will always say that, oh yeah, well, I have a day job, or I have this, I have that, that's going to prevent me from doing, X, Y, and Z. Then maybe comic books is just something that you want to do for fun, and not as a career. Because if you
Right.
Yeah.
really want to look into this as a career, you will have to sacrifice other things, and make sure that you put the samples out.
Yeah.
You put your project together.
Look at that. Look at this black and white. Oh my goodness. This is just beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's absolutely something that Daniel and I, you know, poured our blood, sweat, and tears into.
Hmm. No, congratulations on a beautiful project. So I know you're working on this right now, but it's also busy sort of summer Comic Con season. Where are some of the places you're targeting where fans can interact with you?
Yeah, I'm doing Comic Con mainly because it's localish to me. You know, it's an hour away. Um, I usually would do a New York Comic Con every year, but I'm due to schedule stuff. I can't do that. But I might be doing Baltimore. Um, and
Oh, Baltimore Con
and
in
there's one more show in Japan at the end of the year, but I'm not 100% yet. So we'll see. But the Comic Con in Baltimore are probably my two shows right now.
have you
And
been
I
to
have a
Baltimore last
4-year-old,
year?
so I can't really take as much trips anymore.
Yeah.
Were you there last year in Baltimore Con?
What's that?
Were you in Baltimore Con last year?
No, I was not.
Okay, so you'll
This
be
might be
in
my first
coming
year.
year. Oh,
Mhm.
cool. Okay, cool. The chat asked, Tyler asked, what is your favorite Spawn character to draw?
Spawn. Well, I actually just did 2 issues with Todd not long ago. A couple of years ago, I came back and do 2 issues with Todd. Um, and I created a character with Todd called Raptor, and that's I would say that would be my favorite one to draw. I designed it because I enjoy drawing him that way. So
Yeah.
Who will win a fight, Shadowhawk or Night Thrasher? I haven't know.
you
Who
know
will
that
write the
asked Jim.
comic book?
And I don't think I've ever drawn Night Thrasher. I like New Warriors as a book. I never collected it. I only had money for one book, and New Warriors came out at the same time as Guardians of the Galaxy back in 1991 too, and I can only afford the book, so Guardians it was.
Awesome. Is there a, I guess, either a character or person in the industry you would like to kind of work with, and maybe like a dream project that you would hope for?
I A lot. To say that if an artist say that there is no one, they're probably lying. There's just a lot of people that I you know I'd like to think that I'd get more chance to write and draw my own stuff, but there's still a lot of like writers that are my heroes. you know um outside of I'm already working with one of the legends, and I really shouldn't be that much more greedy. I'm very thankful to be working with Frank, um and
That
grateful
would be
for all the
awesome. That would be
wisdom.
awesome.
But if you ask me, I would still say, of course I want to work with like Alan Moore's and your Neil Gaiman's and your Jeff Loeb's, you just so like Millar. There's so many of them out there.
Yeah, all great, all legends. Wow. All right, Hung. So you have any questions?
But Roscoe has a question. Are you currently reading any books?
Mostly manga.
Well, mostly manga. Yeah. Would you say those are?
I'm rereading a lot of my older mangas. I'm a big fan of of Inoue, so I'm rereading a lot of like the Vagabonds and Slam Dunk. I follow Tsutomu Nihei,
Yeah.
whatever work he does.
Yeah.
I reread my Blade of Immortal by Samura.
Awesome.
Yeah, I also read a lot of light novels.
Mhm.
I enjoy a lot of the like Tensei Slime and all these other
Mhm.
things. Watch anime. I'm still a big like fanboy geek.
Yeah.
Any of the
No.
novels you read, do you have any novels that you want to say, hey, I bet that would translate well into comic book. Which would that be?
No. I think a lot of the light novels that I think would do great are already either manga or anime.
All right.
I used to read a lot of Chinese novels too. I don't read as much anymore. I just felt like the newer novels are not my cup of tea. But manga, that's still my thing.
Yeah. I guess so. Going back, I see a lot of the vagabond influence, the Inoue's influence in your
Thank you.
work. I
Very
also,
flattered.
we love his work. Like Slam Dunk is, I think, for most of the Asia Pacific region growing up in the 90s, Slam Dunk was like the biggest thing.
Yeah, we
ever.
can't be friends if you didn't like it and we grew up the same time.
It's such an amazing, and they just released, I think, what was it, the 30th? Like the animation.
I think they have a new movie
Yeah,
recently
right,
called The First,
right.
and I haven't got a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it as well. It hasn't been released here in the U.S., I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But it looks incredible. It's essentially like a high quality, right, like retelling of that modern retelling of that story, which is just really difficult to capture from the comics, right?
Yeah. And it's you have to be in a place where basketball is not big, and the school culture is a certain way for you to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it'll be something that would completely translate well into a material that people would love over here.
Yeah, it's very Asian, and it's very Japanese in its approach, and I agree. It's hard to translate here.
It is hard. Like, I mean, like over here, the reason Karate Kid is popular is probably the same reason why Slam Dunk is popular in Asia, because karate is not something where every kid has access to over here, especially in the 80s.
More exotic.
Now you probably have more schools and dojos and whatnot right now, but not in those times.
Yeah.
And I think in a way that's how Slam Dunk translates to people over there.
Yeah.
I mean, in Korea, there's a lot of we call it manga manhwa, and a lot of comic books are like soccer related. People who they are passionate about. It's a really unrealistic soccer. These are like superhero with the soccer playing abilities. But
that's true.
Well, I think which, by the way, comic books in Hong Kong and Taiwan and China, the Chinese speaking countries, manga is also manhwa, and I guess there's a connection to all of this comic book culture around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I really enjoy about Korean comic books right now are a lot of the stuff that goes on Webtoon. There's a lot of they do a lot of romance, or not exactly pure romance story, but there's a lot of romance with a twist, which I think are great, and I think that's why that's one of the biggest reason I think Asian comic books and or even just non-American comic books are growing much more, because there's just so much more materials. They're diverse topics that they do, and not just people in tights punching each other. One of the, and I could be wrong, but I think one of the anime right now where it's about someone being transported back into some medieval fantasy world is like playing aristocratic politics, and I think it was a Korean manhwa that was for girls, and then I enjoy it very much. I think they just have so much more different topics that they cover. You know, you have Japanese manga about wine tasting, stuff like that.
Yeah, it really they cover every topic and have something for
Yeah.
every target audience.
Mm-hmm.
And American comic books also is really diversifying and broadening out. We just had on Ariel Jovellanos. Are you like friends with her or aware of her work?
What's her name again?
Ariel Jovellanos. She's a Filipina American. She just put out this Lois Lane, Girl Taking Over. It's a DC project.
Oh,
It's yeah, just lots of books like
that's
this
cool.
targeting the younger
No, I
And
audiences.
there's no superhero in here. There's no Superman
unfortunately
in
I
here.
don't know her, but that's cool to see.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
for young adults. It's not for. I mean, it's not nobody in tights yet.
No, I think that's great. That's great. I think you definitely will have like your older fans, and there's a shrinking group of old time comic book fans that will complain a lot of this
Yeah,
experiments or
yeah.
other things, but
Mhm.
Oh, it's not for me.
you can't blame the company for trying all these. You have to reach the new audience.
Right. I mean, our hobby will die if we don't reach
Yeah.
any new audiences. I mean, I only got few years left.
Yeah.
Well, don't say that, but I mean, you have to try. You have to try new stuff. You have to explore new directions.
Right. I agree.
It might not, if something's not for myself, for us, then you don't support it. But you can't tell other people not to try it or not to support
You
it.
gotta try.
Yeah.
You gotta try.
Yeah.
I think this question been answered, but does he follow any Filipino comic heroes?
Oh, I'm friends with Budget. He I can read that he was mentioning Trece, and that's Budget's work. And I follow some of the older creators that are around my same age, or maybe a little more older, but I haven't followed any of the younger
Mhm.
crowd.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
as I mentioned earlier, May is Asian American Pacific Islander month. You know, being an
I kind of fit
Asian,
all of that, huh?
yeah, being Asian and moving to this country, that's a big transition. Can you speak to some of, I guess, the cultural challenges, or has it been all good, or has there been
uh,
some things you can share?
no, actually, it wasn't. I would imagine I probably have it a lot easier compared to someone who would have to go into office, into a workplace, into a school. This is a very kind of like a lonely line of work where you're at home most of the time. Yeah, you still go out and mingle with people, but you don't encounter people as frequently as someone like, if you're a teenager and you're still going to school and you just moved from Asia to here, then you would have a lot more things that you have to deal with. Same with work, but I mean, like a regular work where you go into an office. But as a comic book artist, I'm probably not qualified to 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 express if I have a lot of like problems on fitting in and adjusting, and because mainly just because our line of job, you're pretty lonely. You stay indoors, and
Mhm.
the few times you do go out are with your friends, and
Mhm.
and everyone would be a lot more understanding towards
Yeah,
you until
yeah,
through the years, and you eventually kind of just fits in, and so in a way I got it easy. I was very fortunate that this is my job, and it wasn't a hard transition for me.
yeah.
And am I
Now,
confusing you guys? Does it make sense?
no, that makes complete
That makes
sense.
perfect sense.
Yeah. like I think um, also, you having spoken English in the Philippines and coming here, not having that language barrier like most Asians would, also probably
And you're
contributes
right.
to it.
I miss mentioning that, because that
Mhm.
was a very big help that we, in the Philippines, like, if you're in most of the Filipino Chinese, they would put their kids through, like the kids would go through school like 7:30 in the morning, and you don't come back until, I mean, the school doesn't end until 5:30, because you have Chinese class, you have English class, you just have all kinds of class that you have
Wow.
to take to kind of be good with the culture and the language and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's a lot of, yeah. We were mentioning how Asian culture is like really academically focused. It's good to see that you had that in growing up. Um, so moving to California, did you have? I mean, I know Southern California has a very rich and vibrant Filipino and Chinese culture, like communities there. Um, are you active with those communities? How are some of your, like, I guess?
Embarrassingly, I'm not. Like I said, I mean, I'm most comic book artists are kind of like chained to our tables.
Right here. Yeah, us comic artists aren't humans. We're just a creature with a back problem who spend half of our lives at drawing table.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to take care of your body.
Yeah.
I don't hunch over for extended long periods of time, because I've seen enough of my friends getting injuries and health issues that will never go back, and that scares me.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think every half an hour you have to be standing up, stretching, kind of like exercising a little bit, doing something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yoshi mentioned that. Remember, uh, she had
Yeah,
a
she had a issue with her hand, a nerve. She had nerve damage or something that came from just
Yeah,
excessive drawing.
so many artists. I mean, there's like a lot of like Japanese, they're notorious for working long hours and with their crazy weekly deadlines. um and some of them are just like, they have they have sickness at this point where they can't really heal.
Oh dear.
yeah that
Yeah.
uh,
Well, we hope you maintain that balance, work life balance.
Well, we all can try our best.
Yeah. Philip, so I know you're limited in what you can talk about in terms of your projects, and I know you're currently focused on the Ronin project. But
Yeah.
what do you have coming up down the road?
Well, I mean, I still do a lot of covers for Marvel. Every time, I get a break from Ronin, I would be doing, you know, uh, you know, doing a lot of my Marvel cover. The commitments I have. Um, uh, it's not that I can't talk about the other projects. It's just that they're much later on in the future. There's no tangible plans for them yet. Like right now, I'm focused on Ronin. There is another project after Ronin, and that's not something I can talk about. That one I have to apologize that I can't talk about until they announced it.
Hmm.
Um, but it's gonna still be the same art team. Daniel and I are gonna be on art. There's so many things that we want to do. There's so many visuals that we would like to use to tell our story. So
Yeah. Well, we're very much looking forward to that. Anything you're looking to do this summer? Any like family summer plans?
well, there's San Diego Comic Con, but now I still have a lot of my deadlines, and I have to go back to the deadlines, and whatever free time I get, I spend it with my 4-year-old. So
Hmm. And being so close and local to San Diego Comic Con, how is it different? Uh, how is it different from participating in, say, something on the road? Um,
you save a lot more. Now, I'm sorry about that, but now, San Diego is still pretty expensive, especially if you have to fly in from elsewhere and you have to, plan your hotels and stuff like that. And then, it's pretty expensive. But because of how close it is, and I just drive to and from, so a lot of the times where I go to another show where I have to fly to a farther place, you kind of lose because you have to prepare. You have to also plan so it does not affect your schedule. So the week before and after are going to be a mess. With San Diego, it's a little easier for me just because I can, drive back to and back home.
And it's such a big event. I mean, logistically, it's such a big event. Do you feel like you're getting the kind of exposure and engage? Is it a little too much? Is it not enough? What's
No,
the
no, I,
balance
I, I, I think most artists should take all these shows. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's still important that artists needs to not just lose money. They need to kind of make profit. When they go to a show and they spend money and their plan is to profit from it. But I think the most important thing artists should take from a show is probably the connection they do with the fans and potential publishers or peers. I don't think you can buy that, to be able to connect at conventions and kind of see what's going on, what people like, because that affects what you do next, and what that affects what kind of stuff you get inspired on after.
Yeah, we have a member in the chat. Apparently, you and his dad went to the same alma mater,
Oh,
University of Santo Tomas.
yeah. I love that. I love that those days. It's a little tough going to school and from back then, but enjoyed it. I don't know how it is now, but those are the times where I was in, it was college, and I was in the last 2 years of that I was trying to get more and get more training from Wills and get connected with everyone in his school and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh,
Awesome.
back to the con. What was one of the most memorable connection you made while you were at the con?
Well, I don't know about memorable. There's a really funny one.
Okay.
And actually, I wasn't in my booth. My wife was manning my booth, and Wesley Snipes came by.
Oh.
And he went, Philip Tan, that was my stunt brother. And because apparently there's a very popular actor called Philip Tan, and and he thought that I was there, and there's a younger person that was his wife, and I was like, no, it's completely a different person. So my wife
That's
was telling
awesome.
me about the story afterwards. I was like, oh yeah, damn, too bad. I wish I was there.
So it would have been most memorable connection you did make.
I at San Diego Comic-Con, I mean, you just you can't remember. I don't know. I can't remember. I feel like every year, there's just so many things that you get so inspired. You get to meet so many of your heroes, like great artists and great writers and even like, publishers and stuff like that you get so inspired that every year you feel like that would be, like the best year because you just met and talked to and became friends with X, Y, and Z.
Right,
So,
right.
I don't think I can remember one that just stands out from everyone else.
Yeah. Well, Philip, I know you have to get to some home related work, so we're gonna let you go. But thank you so much This was a great conversation, and we're big fans of your work. And so we just wish you continued success and the best moving
No,
forward.
thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna
A
look for you.
pleasure meeting you both.
I'm gonna look for you in the Baltimore Con because that's where I'm nearby. So
Oh, okay, very cool.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully I'll get my plans done nicely, and the trip would be set, and I'll see you guys there.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
Thanks so
Chad.
much.
All right, take care.
Thanks for coming
Thank
by,
you
guys.
again.
I mean, the broadcast.